What was the best moment you've seen where the real world hit a spoiled rich kid? I grew up with rich kids and still keep in touch with a few of them. One guy's father owned the most prestigious law firm in town. He said his life changed the moment he called his father from jail, the second time it happened. His father said, "Well, sorry to hear you got arrested, good luck," then hung up. He said getting locked back into his cell was the singular moment that completely turned his life around. That's a good life lesson. Sounds like the dad cares, but wants his son to actually grow up to be a good, successful person. Do you know if he actually turned his life around and got better from there? I knew this rich kid from high school that went off to college and partied every single night. His parents found out that he was failing basically all of his classes, so they secretly drove up early one Saturday morning with the spare set of keys to the car they had bought him and just drove off with the car.
My parents did this to me in college, but it was because they found out I was living with my boyfriend and they didn't believe in sex before marriage. I thought my car had been stolen. I guess technically it was. Edit. Holy shit. I didn't expect anyone to care about this. I'll just respond to all the questions here. My name was on the title. My parents had bought the car outright when I turned 16, but I worked for my mom's business and had been foregoing a salary through the end of high school to pay for the car. They gave it back eventually. The resentment stayed and I moved several states away a few months later. I came back to visit, nearly died in an accident in the same car, with a boyfriend they hated. He and I broke up. They were right about one thing, he sucked. My parents have since outgrown their religious weirdness, yada yada. We're extremely close, and they really love and accept the man I currently live with, who I am very much not married to.
Somewhat distant relative spent all of his university years and 20s partying hard with the $100 to $120K allowance his rich company-owning father gave him each year. He'd traveled the world each year, going to Bali, Thailand, Europe, every year Oktoberfest, just rampaging. At 32 or so he decided to settle in upscale ski resort area of the US and open a business with his hot gold digger fiancée. When he went to transfer his money to his US bank account, he noticed it only came to a few $1,000s. He angrily asked the bank worker why she hadn't transferred the entire amount, only to be told that that was the entire amount. His father had cut him off without saying anything, and he just hadn't noticed. Absolute flatline. Rich guy in our college dorm thought he was untouchable cause his dad was some NFL player from the 90s and had not blown all his money yet. He would get freshman girls blackout drunk and then film himself having sex with them and then show all his buddies the next day or so. Well, one buddy was not as close as he thought and went to the RA, who then went to campus police and then real police. It was a fun night watching the parking lot fill up with the bored cops on duty that night and haul his ass out of the dorms while they went and gathered his evidence. What happened to him afterwards? Did he return to school? Never saw him after that night. This took place near the end of the week, Thursday or Friday, cause I remember going to class on Monday and his dorm was empty and being cleaned by the housekeeping staff. That one Instagram model who got caught on video talking shit to a security guard at VidCon. Not only did the guard stand his ground and not let him in because he wasn't famous enough to be given a pass and too rich to just buy one, but once the internet saw the video, the guard ended up with more followers than the kid. You're irrelevant. I'm attractive as F, I make a lot of money. Brew, what the F? Classmate in college failed his course. Partied for a year with daddy's money. Never studied. Ever. Thing is, inheriting his father's construction company, 2 quarries, a fleet of trucks and equipment, depended on him manning up and passing the class. All he had to do was learn the basics of mechanical diagnostic and repair and be set for life. He just needed to pass one class? Talk about wasted opportunities. One course. He failed 4 or 5 classes. All were needed to graduate. Administration and faculty at a university refused a substantial offer of endowment money from a couple that wanted their son enrolled as an art major. Their son couldn't meet the minimum scholastic entrance requirements, and he had little aptitude for art. Still, with their millions, he thought money would buy his way to an easy degree as an art major. He was dumbfounded to receive a notice of non-admittance. Cries in German. Someone is gonna pay for this down the road. I had a roommate my freshman year of college that came from an incredibly rich oil family from the Middle East. I remember him having the hardest time adjusting to not having someone else prepare him food. I remember waking up one morning and going to the kitchen and seeing him try to eat eggs and toast he had just prepared himself. He asked me how I normally prepare fried eggs because his tasted really crunchy. Turns out he had just cracked the egg hole into the pan and prepared it shell and all. I couldn't stop laughing but felt really bad for the dude. At least he tried. True. He was a good dude. Was an interesting semester helping him learn how to live providing for himself. I knew a guy in high school who bragged that he didn't have to pay attention in school because, get this, his grandfather was a vice president of the corporation that supplied the cardboard for cereal boxes for General Mills. Real gravy train, you know. Last I checked, since deleted Facebook, he was still working at Best Buy 5 years after high school, same job he had in high school. I don't think my father, the inventor of toaster strudel, would be too pleased with this. Let it out, honey. Put it in the book. My best moment was when I got hired by a pair of Woodside, California parents to transition their horrible 18-year-old into the realities of real life, something that evaded both of them. My first action was to take away his platinum, limitless credit cards. He threw a tantrum that lasted several days. Where am I going to get money? Get a job. My parents will fire you. They didn't. When he realized that boundaries and budgets had been set in stone and that he not only had to pay the bills, the rent, but taxes too, he headed straight to college to wait out the next 4 years. He is still a little jerk, but at least he has a job and an education now. How does one get into this line of work? I was the nanny while working through my PD.D, so I came to it indirectly. There is a whole workforce of folks who do this word of mouth and next door. One of my college roommates told his parents the trip we were planning, that they were paying for, was $400 more expensive than it was so he could buy a really nice bong. In addition, they basically paid for everything he wanted. He had their credit card and ordered food on it at least once daily. He also would make $50 purchases off the card pretty regularly. Long story short, they found out he lied about the cost of the trip. For whatever reason they still paid and let him go, but after the trip he could not use their card anymore. This dude acted like he lived the hardest life of all time afterwards, but eventually sucked it up. He actually acts way less entitled now. It ended up having a lasting positive effect for him, even though he wouldn't admit it. I love stories like this. No joke here. Back in high school 90s, this kid got a brand new Chevy Camaro. I had an old-ass 80s Pontiac Phoenix that had the straight six. It was by far not a racing car, but this tool was just looking to brag at what he got compared to the busted cars we got. About 2 days later, while we were waiting at a stoplight, this idiot tries to race us as I am in my car, and I pull up with my friends. He starts by revving it really loud and tries to do a burnout. Mind you, the light was red and the roads were not wet. So he managed to get a tiny burnout going, some smoke and whatnot. When his tires did catch traction, he went barreling into the intersection and smashed the car of the wife of one of the very few cops in my small city. Needless to say, that didn't work out for him very well. At the start of this I thought you were just explaining the plot of Tokyo Drift with slightly different cars. Don't know if I'm happy you weren't bamboozling. While working in a casino here in Las Vegas, a herd of girls came to my window and one proceeded to tell me about her great birthday party itinerary that her dad had paid for her 18th birthday. With no adult in the party. Just a bunch of teenaged girls out in Vegas. Where none of them could do anything because none of them were 21. I couldn't even check them into their reservation. They start yelling and screaming at me. I calmly call security and security tells them they can either go play in the arcade or leave and try to find a hotel off the strip that will take them in without being 21. The anger turns to tears, the security guard is unmoved. That's their parents' fault. A stupid 18th birthday gift. People do it all the time, though. At a Starbucks and she thought apparently people gave her parents free drinks and such for her all these years. Like the cashier told her the total and she said, "Wait, I don't get it for free?" She never realized her parents swiping their cards all those years was paying for her things, I guess. To be fair, my mom, who did not have wealthy parents, thought the same thing when she and her sister snuck off to DQ for ice cream. She was also 5. I work at a concession stand in a Chuck E. Cheese type place. Kids often come up to purchase food without their parents. I can't put a number on how many times I've had little kids come up and ask me what we have for free. The sky? The air? Definitely not any food, though. Never a kid over 10 that asks though. Like, comment, and share. Reddit Story Topper. Subscribe now.